Call Me By Your Name stars Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet as Oliver and Elio, two young men in northern Italy in 1983 who meet because Oliver has come to help Elio's father as a research assistant, and the two of them spend a summer becoming closer and closer as they both learn things about themselves they never knew. This film has been around the festival circuit. It's being nominated for tons of awards. It's been buzzed about and lauded for months, and I have been dying to see it. And having seen it, I can see why. This is a beautiful film, one that is startlingly real. It feels so blisteringly sensual and in the moment that it's almost impossible to ignore. As you watch the film, it doesn't unfold like most films. It's in no way traditional in its storytelling. Usually when you're writing a screenplay, there's rules that writers go by, like the inciting incident must happen on page 15 to 20, or things like that. At some point you must realize where the hero's motivation lies, or where the villain's motivation lies. This film sidesteps basically all of cinema's rules and is very lazy and purposely meandering, because it's about two guys who are meandering through a summer, discovering things about themselves. And as these characters explore this blossoming relationship, the film just becomes something really beautiful. And it really does have something to do with the fact that when I look back on this movie, I feel like I was there. I feel like I was in Italy. It captures its location and the feel of the surroundings so well that it doesn't feel like you're watching a movie, really. It almost feels like you're a fly on the wall watching documented events. Speaking of flies, there's a lot of them in this film, and some might think, well, that was just a coincidence. And I thought it was just a coincidence until the final shot, which I won't get into, but there's a fly involved in this final shot, and thinking back on the movie, there's a lot of flies involved in the film, and you start to wonder, with a film that's this well directed, was this something intentional? Is there a deeper meaning to all these flies? Or is it just because they live around a lot of fruit and it's a hot summer day? And is it pointless to wonder if these flies have any meaning to the actual story? Well, if you actually want to get into that, which I kind of do because I like to look at films that way, what really is a fly's life? It's short. It's here and gone, and then it's disappeared. And in some ways, this summer for these characters is like that. It's this short, fleeting thing that's very impactful to both of them, but it's over like that. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the flies. It could also be that there's this pesky thing that both of them can't really ignore that's always going to be there for them. It's one of those things where I feel like it's kind of silly to just sit here and talk about the flies that are constantly in this film. And I thought it was a coincidence until the final shot. It's just so glaringly right there that there must be some meaning. In fact, at a press conference, the director himself refused to talk about this. He didn't want to give any meaning or any hints of any kind. And it kind of felt like Denis Villeneuve's Spiders, an enemy, because there's a meaning to them and they're definitely there, but he won't talk about it. And I could go on and on about different things in this film that are thrown into each scene that could have more of a meaning than it really does. And in some ways that could just be really pretentious, and maybe that's not even what the director was going for. But what is most certain about this film are the two lead performances by Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet. They're fantastic. Both of these actors have insanely good chemistry. It's palpable, it's sultry, there's something devastatingly romantic about what they accomplish on the screen, and the two of them together work real magic. This is a film that sometimes could be very boring because it does show things that you don't necessarily need to know. Sometimes you see Elio just writing notes about his music because he has an interest in music. Sometimes the two of them are just sitting around looking at scenery. Maybe there's a really long shot of them just swimming in a pond for no particular reason other than look at this beautiful moment with these two characters. And it's these moments that make you feel like you're there, and it creates that sense of realism that most films just don't have. Even in the sound design, they don't try to make it seem like a movie. It feels very realistic. In an early scene, the two characters are sitting at a table outside by the street, and cars are passing behind them, and they have to raise their voice to talk over the cars. The sound of the cars isn't drowned out of the mix. It's right there just like it would be if you were sitting there. And it just lends to that feel of realism and environment. It's also a film that's emotion builds and kind of sneaks up on you because it is purposefully slow paced. It's a slow burn without a doubt. But towards the third act of the film, as the summer is winding down, the impact of the events for these characters is really felt a lot more significantly. And you don't get some of those arcs that most screenplays would give you. Just like the fact that the inciting incident is not on page 15 or 15 minutes into the movie. You don't get those pretty clean character arcs that make you go, oh, okay, that's great. Life is filled with hope. Sometimes things are complicated and very complex, especially with these two men having feelings for each other. And so the film doesn't have any easy answers, and it doesn't give the characters an easy way out. As for flaws, I would have liked to have known a little more about the characters, especially Oliver. They're very much so kept at arm's length. You basically learn what you see and a few things that you hear. You don't know that much about either of the characters, just really the things that the film needs you to know. It would have been nice if I was a little more attached to them. I felt for them, but I just didn't really know that much about them. And yes, the pace being so deliberately slow can sometimes wear on your patience a little bit. But this film is just so different and so unique that didn't really bother me too much. I suppose my biggest issue is that I wish there were more obstacles set in the way of these characters. There just wasn't that many hardships in their way beyond time and their situation sometimes ripping them apart from each other. It would have been nice if there was a little more obstacles. A film that dealt with similar themes last year was the Best Picture winner Moonlight, which was also about a young man discovering things about himself that he was unsure of and conflicted about. But in his environment that he lived in, he was confronted with so many things that made that lifestyle extremely difficult. In this film, the characters don't have as many things to worry about, which I think would have perhaps gave more drama to the story. All that being said, Call Me By Your Name is a very romantic, extremely well-directed, and very well-acted film, and if you get a chance to see it, I recommend it. I'm going to give Call Me By Your Name an A-. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos coming very soon. And as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.